Look, my stats getting bigger and bigger. Look, I shoot the J like I'm Jigger. Y'all said he worried about y'all figure. I'm worried about getting figures.
What you doing? You sleep? You working? What you doing? How old are you? No matter. Work is work. Shout out Gaston. We in here. What you doing?
Valentine's junior varsity coach, Emmanuel, called me and said, there's this kid that's coming to our high school next year. He's gonna be pretty good. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe he's a junior. He's like, no, he's in the 8th grade. I'm like, okay, you think I'm gonna let an 8th grader come play on my AAU team with 17-year-olds? Like, he's gonna get murdered out there. I don't care how good he is. He's like, no, they say he's supposed to be a pretty good player. So I was like, man, you know what? What is it gonna hurt? My name is Chris Gaston, born and raised in Houston, Texas. CEO and founder of Family First Sports Firm.
I'm like, wow, like this could really happen. By the time you're 16, like I was drafted at 19, so it was 3 years away.
I didn't really follow the hype.
It was like, whoa, what am I looking at?
I think I was in like 6th, 7th grade, and ever since then, man, he just took me under his wing.
I didn't really talk about whether my son was gonna go to the NBA or not.
We just didn't have it like that, but you know, he came out, sacrificed.
I didn't have a pot to piss in, man. I mean, I was dirt broke.
You can't go do another free workout because we don't have any gas.
Family first, as you can see, the fist, you know, represents empowerment.
De'Aaron was born in '97 in New Orleans. We moved to Houston in 2003. A lot of people think we moved from New Orleans to Houston because of Hurricane Katrina. But actually, we moved 2 years before Hurricane Katrina.
My earliest memory of coming to Houston, I mean, I was probably like 5, 6 years old, so I was super young. I just remember staying in apartments at the time, and that was probably when my brother was starting middle school. And I was playing football.
He first started playing football. He liked football. Dad was coaching.
We played football before we played basketball. I was the coach when he played football. He was my quarterback.
I remember one time Dad was, I guess, kind of looking for somebody to be quarterback for his little football team. And, you know, he was like trying to go over it like piece by piece. So De'Aaron told him, Dad, I got it. Just let me go, I got it. And he was his quarterback for 6 years.
I was playing football with some people, with some guys, and they also played on the same AAU team. So that's kind of how we started playing AAU. But I mean, I always liked both sports. I definitely always liked both sports.
The first time I saw De'Aaron play was actually on the football field. My son and him played football, and a lot of us was kind of thinking that De'Aaron Fox would go football because he was a talented left-hand quarterback with a lot of speed. Got a call after football season from his mom saying, hey, I know you do this AAU, you got an AAU team. What about allowing De'Aaron Fox to come out and try out? Well, at that time I was traveling. I said, of course, De'Aaron Fox can come out. He was always the yes sir kid. I'm like, yeah, of course he seems to be talented. So the first night of practice, I wasn't there.
Dunn wasn't at the first practice. Another coach was there. And so, you know, De'Aaron came in. Like I said, he knew some of the kids because he had just played football with them. And at the first practice, the other coach was there. And after the practice, he called Dunn and was like, Dunn, yeah, you found the player. You found the player right here.
Got a call from my assistant coach, and he said, tonight, a future NBA star just walked into the gym. And I'm like, who? He was like, De'Aaron Fox. I'm like, little Fox. I'm like, man, he's football though. He ain't even doing basketball. He gonna go football. He definitely go football, man. He talented on the football field. The coach said, no, this kid has it.
He was doing football and basketball probably from 3rd grade to 6th grade. 7th grade, when he went to middle school, because that's when you can actually start playing sports in middle schools at 7th grade. He decided, I don't want to play football anymore. It's too hot out there in this sun in Texas, and this line just ain't doing it for me.
I stopped playing when I was like 12, 13. I'm like, yo, it's hot as hell outside. So that's the reason I quit football. Like, obviously people were like, it's physical, blah, blah, blah. This Houston heat is different
Shit, I said, fine. Shit, I ain't got to be out there in that heat neither.
So he decided to just go transfer right into basketball full time.
Man, I always think about, I've coached so many kids, and their families make a difference, because he had such a connected group of people around him. He was always trying to get information. He was always standing beside me. Coach, what do you think, coach? What do you think, coach? He was like a coach on the court, and he was so young. And that's why he was kind of amazed and intrigued by it all at the same time. He was like, wait. Just play the game. But he had questions. So I could take, so for an example, we were a pressing team.
With football, conditioning is a little bit different from basketball conditioning. So the first basketball game he played with Dunn's team, he was like huffing and puffing, like, oh my God, because it's, stop and go, run, stop and go. So, he was tired. He wasn't in basketball shape at that time, but, he still, played well. And probably the second tournament that he played with Dunn's team, he had already established himself and moved into the starting lineup.
I mean, we would press you until you couldn't run up and down the court no more. That was our game. Fox loved it because it allowed the football speed he was showing on the football field, he could do it on the basketball court, just going up and down. So we was like, but then everybody would start trying to play us in the zone. He said to me, Coach, here's how I can help. Because at the time, he hadn't developed that jump shot that he has now. He said, put me in the middle of the zone. That's when I knew then that this kid had potential to be a point guard. He's like, Coach, put me at the top of the zone. And I'm like, Fox, man, I need you to be up here, really kind of control the ball. He said, put me at the top of the zone, Coach. It changed our whole season. We went all the way to AAU, Nationals, made it to the Elite Eight, putting him there because what he got to do was to pass the ball and he could see the court so well. That's when it hit me then, like, this kid has potential to be a point guard.
From between 7th grade and 8th grade summer, is when I really saw that, okay, well, I wasn't really thinking professional. I was thinking I might not have to pay for college.
First time I met De'Aaron was in the 8th grade, I believe. Went down and watched him play at Thornton Junior High, who feeds the high school that we were working at. So typically what we do, we go see our new classes coming in as freshmen, go see the players. We heard that there was a big time player down there. Went down there and watched him. His dad was actually coaching the team at the time, which was very weird because that never happens in our district. And watched him play, and he dominated the game we watched, so we kept watching every game from that point on.
So we actually met Chris through his high school coach. Like Coach O and Chris had been friends for a long time, and Chris had a little AAU team.
So how I first met De'Aaron Fox was through my AAU program that I own, Houston Preps.
It was right around that moment, his eighth grade summer, he played with our high school team in the summer league and pretty much dominated the summer league. And that's when I got with Chris. I was like, hey, we got a kid that I think's pretty good. And he's like, well, you think that all your players are good? You know, he says, all your players are good. You're just a high school coach that loves all your players. I was like, no, I think this is a little different.
His high school coach told Chris about him. Say, hey, let him come and run with y'all this weekend, da-da-da.
So that's when he was like, hey, well, we're playing a summer game this weekend. If you think he's that good, it's gonna be 17U, which is pretty much all seniors. Have him come up and play.
My guys are 17U. I'm not gonna have a little 13-year-old kid play with us, whatever. He was like, no, give him a chance, you'll see.
I never forget, we were at the gym in Humble, Texas. The kid got out the car. I'm like, that's not the player you're talking about, right? That's not him.
De'Aaron came out with his glasses on and, little skinny kid or whatever, and Chris was like, is that him? That's the kid you're talking about?
Gaston, man, you a skinny guy right here.
Now he was a skinny, scrawny kid. I'm like, that's not the kid. But I'm like, hey, you know what? This guy's a good guy. It's not gonna hurt nothing.
I was in 8th grade, so I probably had already turned 14, and I was playing 17U. So I was playing up with the 17U team, and obviously it was different. You're playing guys who are juniors, about to be seniors in high school.
First of all, he didn't start De'Aaron, and I'm over there like across sitting like, dude, got dude to come play, and you're not putting him in the game, and he's like, obviously because we're still trying to get some of the seniors on the team scholarship offers and scholarship looks who've been playing with the team all year long. So just being loyal.
Never forget the first game, put him in the game, had him on the wing. So getting a shot block, he just looked out of place. He's like an 8th grader, running up and down the court.
So the first game, De'Aaron was off the ball. So he would run the court and out to the side or out to the corner, whatever. So he really wasn't being himself. So the second game, his high school coach told Chris, put the ball in his hand.
I think it was probably about halftime. He's like, so, how do you play him? I'm like, just put the ball in his hand and let him play in pick and roll, and he'll be fine.
And it was like, no, he's a point guard. You got to put the ball in his hand.
So Chris put the ball in his hand, and De'Aaron was De'Aaron.
Never forget, put the ball in his hands. The next game, it was like, whoa, what am I looking at? It was magic. Mind you, this kid's in the 8th grade. This is juniors and seniors, and he's out there dominating.
And it was on after that.
Look, I ain't about to tell you twice. We on different levels, and you better get the balance right. We not eye to eye, we are not alike. You couldn't even be me in another life. Don't hit me on my phone, yeah, I'll get back when I'm posted. They wanna blackmail, cause they see I'm going posted. I've been at the top since I came over. I've been in control, yeah, it's game over. Born great, no, I ain't asked for it. Chasing the throne, I'm coming back for it. I never quit, fading the black for it. Never hang it up, I need a black for it.
I'm not sure Chris subbed him out for the rest of the tournament. And I believe they actually ended up winning the tournament. He had 25, I think, in the first game.
Apparently I was killing the second game, and I wasn't even in high school yet. So that's kind of how it pretty much started, I guess.
And the coolest part about that tournament was that I'm sitting next to a couple of parents in the stands that are watching the game. And one parent just gets up and he says, man, he goes, that's Duke. That's North Carolina. Basically saying that's what a kid that goes to a high major, school like that looks like. And that's was like, okay, well, we might have something here.
It was his cerebral pace to the game, his feel. He just knew where to be. He was sliding in the gaps. He was calling out rotations. He was splitting the pick, driving the dish. I'm like, wait a minute, this is something different here. I'm like, whoa.
He played against my 17-year-old team, and he was 13 years old. Cut him up. We won, but he put on a show. And my son is the coach of that team, and he says, Dad, you know he's only 13 years old. I said, yeah, 13. And I was sold in.
I remember the first time he walked in the gym and Chris was like, this guy gonna be a pro. He was like 130, 140 or something, he was slim. But he was athletic and fast. He was dunking I think 8th grade. I was like, man, I guess. He was left-handed, he was shooting weird, but it was going in. I'm like, yo, who's this little dude, bro? He put me up against him, we playing ones, he's scoring. I'm like, man, who's this little dude? He's like, bro, you're gonna be a pro, I'm telling you, watch. And I'm like, man, I hear you.
Even at that time, I'm like, okay, this guy's a pro. He's a pro. I came back and told his parents, I told his high school coach, this guy's a pro. But at that moment, I'm thinking, okay, he's a late first-round pick. He's gonna be a solid player in the NBA type. 25th pick. He's an NBA player. I know a pro when I see one. But as we start working, I start seeing the way he's a sponge. By the time freshman year rolled around, his 3rd game on varsity, he had 50 points. I was like, nah, he's a pro. One of them guys that jersey's gonna be in the rafters one day.
In high school, I really never knew that De'Aaron was going to be that player, to be honest with you. And that's why I think the growth was great, because I had an opportunity to travel with him when he went to USA basketball, when he went to these camps and played against some of the top players in the country. I think that's the first time I knew. The first time I knew was when he played against Tatum and some of these guys and was still doing the same numbers, if not more, than he was doing in a regular high school scene. His 3rd high school game, he scored 50 points in the game, as a freshman, and it was easy. It wasn't, we see a lot of players when they're trying to score the ball, it looks real hard, or you can tell that they ball hogged the entire game. He dominated the game, and you look at the score sheet at the end of the game, you're like, how did he have 50?
We were actually at the Berry Center playing against Spring. And I actually hit a free throw to get 50, but I missed probably 6 or 7 free throws that game.
I'm like, hey, 50 ball in the dub, so we walk over and Dad's like, no, that's not it.
We could have had 60, 70, shit, because he missed by what? 7, 8 free throws, layups, and we could have had 70.
He missed too many free throws. He didn't get this rebound. He didn't dive on the floor. He didn't do all these things. I'm like, hey man, he's not a video game, you know? Like, he gets tired, he's human, but he always had somebody, a battery in his back to be great.
After the game, we ended up just going back to the school because we always have to go back to the school, and I just stayed a little bit, 30, 45 minutes, and just shot free throws.
I didn't really follow the hype per se. I just enjoyed watching him play. Like, because I played since I was in 6th grade, through high school, scholarship to college. So I just enjoyed the game, and I enjoy watching my son play.
Me, his high school coach, his mom, his dad, his brother, we were all on the same page, which was to get De'Aaron better. And you know, we worked out every single day. After practice, you know, we worked out. He never complained, and he pushed me as a trainer.
Obviously, when I first met Chris, he was just a basketball trainer at the time, but just kind of how he, you know, picked your interest in everything, not just basketball. And then, you know, some of the guys that he had already trained that have come through Houston. So he, you know, he obviously has a good track record, not with just me. So, and then us going through workouts.
What made De'Aaron stay with Chris is that Chris didn't ask for anything. Like, usually they, you know, the trainer wants you to pay this, that. No, Chris was about the grind. He was about the kid. He wanted to, you know, make the kid as good as the kid can go. He wanted to help the kid get to where the kid wanted to go. So he wasn't like a hype man, or he wasn't telling De'Aaron stuff that he thought the kid wanted to hear. He was, you know, real with him, honest with him, like, work on this. And he never, you know, he never asked for anything.
I couldn't just go in there and say, hey man, go do a flip off the wall. Yes sir, coach. No, that's not him. He's gonna be like, so if I'm doing a flip off the wall, should I do it at a 45-degree angle? Do I land on 2 feet? Should I land on my, so he made me think. So he would keep me up at night, like pushing me as a trainer. I'm like, man, I gotta challenge this guy. And I would give him a drill, he would master it. I would have to make it harder.
You know, it was never the same. It was never the same. He was always, you know, trying, you know, testing different skills, developing different skills. And that's the one thing that, I mean, obviously we grew up, you know, he's grew up with me, and we've continued to do that. Like, it's not too many times where you feel like it's been the same workout in the past month. So just him changing things up and how he feels about you and how he treats you as a person is definitely different from a lot of guys. It's not just about basketball. It's not just about, you know, one thing. It's about life.
You know, through his high school years, he got better and better, and everybody in the country wanted a piece of him.
He all over magazines, ESPN, #1 player in the country. I'm like, yo, he got it.
His dad, you know, I got to give a lot of props to his dad. His dad, not in the words I'm saying it, because he was said in a much rougher tone, we ain't messing with nobody but Gaston. He's the only one that's going to train my son.
Man, the time I thought I was going to the NBA was like, I was probably 16, so sophomore, junior year. You start seeing, and kids are gonna say they don't see it, you see it, you get tagged in and all. If you have Instagram, Twitter, you get tagged in all the time. Just like seeing where you possibly could get drafted and slotted, and you start seeing it, I'm like, wow, like this could really happen.
He didn't really express or talk about the NBA at that age. I would think that he's probably around 10th grade or so when you start seeing your name going toward the top of this, of all these scouting reports or whatever. So you know, you start seeing your name and you start comparing you to other kids in your age group, your position, and you know, you start reading more about you, start finding, you know, seeing, you know, your name up, and then you start like, oh, okay, well, you know, I want to play against this kid, or I want to play against this kid. Well, you know, if they got this kid on the scouting report, then I should be on the scout. So you kind of start, you know, looking around. Then once you start going to these different camps, and then you playing against these kids that they're writing about, and you seeing that your name is being added to the list, your name is going up the ladder, then you start thinking about, yeah, I could get to the NBA. And once he kind of decided that this is what I want to do, is when he said that I don't have a backup plan, because if I had a backup plan, that would defer me from my original plan.
By the time you're 16, like I was drafted at 19, so it was 3 years away. When I was 16, 3 years away was 13. I was in 7th grade, so I knew it would come quicker than I expected. So that's when I really started taking it seriously. Like, yo, you can really go far playing basketball.
After the 50-point game, every school in the Big 12 pretty much offered him.
You start getting those little letters, which don't mean anything. I want kids to know that the letters that you get don't mean anything. Like I didn't even open them. Usually it's like little questionnaires and stuff that they send to everybody. So I want to tell kids, don't get too caught up in getting a little letter. But once like coaches start talking to your parents and your coach, then that's when stuff starts getting real. So like that summer and then going to my freshman year of high school is when, you know, coaches started calling. They had all the Texas schools, like my first year, Texas, A&M, Baylor. And that's when I started being like, wow, like the people that you're watching on TV, you know, on ESPN every weekend, every Tuesday, Wednesday, these coaches are calling. So I'm like, this is real.
As a coach, you know, you kind of getting excited for this kid because you're like, okay, you know, at some point our job was just not to fuck it up. Excuse my language, you know, like let's just not ruin it. This kid's gonna move on. Obviously, he's getting all these schools calling. So I'll never forget this. Got him. We walk outside in front of the back of the building, and I'm like, hey, you know, the school from Kansas called, you know, Texas called. These guys are calling, and they're all saying they're gonna come to our next game. We had a tournament the next day in the district, and I was like, do you want to know when they call? Do you want to know what they're saying? You know, does it matter? Do you want to know when they're coming to the games? He's like, he looks at me, he's like, well, it's not gonna change the way I play or the way, and I was just, shit, I would be nervous, you know what I'm saying? Hey, very next game, 30-ball, game winner.
That's what makes him special. The fame and attention didn't move him one bit. He was the same kid. Go to the gym, go home, play video games. He went out clubbing, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't party. Literally go to the gym, work out, go home, play video games. It didn't move him. John Wall and all these guys came to his high school game, crowd going crazy. He go out there, you know, drop a cool 40, and then go home.
I think it's definitely difficult, you know, with a big city that Houston is, and a lot of distractions that can go on. But once I got to high school, and I was always with older people, even because when I moved to my neighborhood, the people that I met were, you know, a few years older than me. So once they got to high school and I saw what they were doing, I'm like, well, I'm not doing that shit. So once I got there, it was like, I knew what I needed to do. I hung out with the guys that are on the team. Obviously the people that I grew up with that didn't play basketball, I talked to them, but obviously, you know, people are gonna do their own thing, and once you get into high school, you'll start seeing people taking different paths and things like that, but I just separated myself from what I didn't want to do. If I didn't want to smoke weed or do this, do that, I didn't do it. And at the end of the day, I think what was different for me is once I didn't do it, people didn't, you know, peer pressure stuff, they didn't ask me to do it because they knew I was gonna say no anyways. So you want to go out and do this, do that? They're like, yo, I'm gonna say no. So they just stopped asking me at a point, which we were cool. You know, there was no beef, but they just knew I didn't want to do some of the stuff that they were doing. I was a basketball player, and other than that, I stayed out the way, and everybody respected that. So I think me growing up that's kind of how I looked at things.